we're here with the finals of the Dallas Open, sponsored by Ultimate Guard. Matthias Hunt, joined by Ryan Overturf. We're going to call this one and bring it home. Andrew Jessup looking for his first trophy. He's going to have to beat teammate Kevin Jones. He did it once earlier yesterday during the Swiss, back when they were both undefeated. He handed Kevin his first loss. Can he do it again? It will start out with a Gitaxian Probe. We'll take a look at Kevin's hand. Kevin is on Grixis Delver, and hand is definitely of the aggressive type. 2 copies of Delver, a Serum Visions, a Terminate, a Mana Leak, and 2 lands. This is a good start.
This hand has everything but a Lightning Bolt that you would want in an opener against Infect. Depending how good Andrew's hand is, Kevin could run away with this one. If he has a turn 1 Glistener Elf, that's going to be step 1 for Jessup. That would be a pretty massive advantage.
All right, turn 1, he does have a 1-drop, but it's going to be Noble Hierarch instead of Glistener Elf from Jessup.
Slight sigh of relief for Kevin, though he's very far off of being able to cast Terminate with Mana Leak backup, and as soon as Jessup has an Infector, he should have at least 1 mana of support, so it's unlikely that the Terminate will be able to get the job done if an Infector comes down in the following turn.
Good play here by Kevin. He drew the basic island, but he'll fetch for Steam Vents on turn 1 to play that Delver of Secrets.
Yeah, this way... Actually, the way you fetch on this turn doesn't necessarily matter. Your next turn you're doing something with...
Well, this gives him the option to terminate on turn 2 if he needs to. I don't know if he is.
You definitely want to get all your colors of mana. Lead with Steam Vents and Watery Grave.
So we go back over to Andrew. Plays Inkmoth Nexus and Blighted Agent, so 2 threats on the board. Make that 3 threats. Glistener Elf joins the team.
If the Terminate was dicey before, it's scary now. It's probable that Delver just has to hang back on blocking duty.
Yeah, Delver flips off Spell Snare. Now, I just want to point out how big it is that Andrew entered these finals as the 1 seed. The double Delver flipping off Spell Snare draw on the play is near unbeatable.
Yeah. Very hard to overcome in that situation. The Snare would have been able to catch the Blighted Agent, and the Delver would have some initiative. The way that this played out, I imagine that Kevin just has to terminate the Blighted Agent on his turn, leave back Delver to block one of these creatures, and eat a pump spell.
Not thrilled, but I think I agree. Checks out the hand. He cracks the second fetch land. Those are both in his opener. And yeah, if he wants to use the Terminate, he needs to do it while shields are down on Jessup's side.
Yep.
So a fetch will get Watery Grave, putting Kevin down to 14. Now has all 3 colors of mana. Says terminate the Blighted Agent. Makes the play. I think some sadness on Kevin's side that he can't get aggressive here. It's a draw that really wants to do it.
Yeah. Of course, Jessup doesn't have a ton of cards left in hand, so he might not have excellent attacks straight away here.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin's hand was very powerful. You go to Jessup's 3rd turn. Draws another Inkmoth.
One thing that Jessup is not short on here, it's more threats.
He will Distortion Strike. This is a 1 of the Glistener Elf. A 1/0 and unblockable. It will attack in for 3 poison thanks to the Exalted trigger. He'll play Inkmoth Nexus, tap a green, and play another Glistener Elf. And despite these are 2 great hands battling against each other.
And this is just the efficiency of Infect. It forces you to have very specific cards and them to have very low mana costs.
Yeah, Kevin's draw, okay, I guess it doesn't have double Lightning Bolt in it, but it has just about everything else.
No, he just needs Lightning Bolt against hands like this. It has to be that exact card.
So Kevin will play the basic island, play Delver of Secrets. That's the second one in his opener. And Kevin's hand's great. If you look at it, he drew another Terminate for the turn. But it still might not be enough. Andrew, on his upkeep, Distortion Strike on a Glistener Elf. It rebounds. He'll draw. And Kevin's got to hope it's not something like Vines of Vastwood.
Yeah. And that specific card is why he didn't see any action on the Terminate in response to the Distortion Strike.
So if he's not terminating on upkeep, that makes you think that Kevin's just going to plan to take this 3 damage?
Yep.
All right, and he does that. He'll go to 6 poison. The idea is that if he terminates here and Andrew has the Vines, he loses.
Yeah, kicked Vines. That makes a, yep. Suddenly it's a 7 Infect attacker.
A 3rd Glistener Elf from Jessup, a terrifying draw for the Infect player. So next turn he can attack with 5 1/1 Infectors. He could activate both Inkmoths, just swing all the Glistener Elves, just no pumps.
gross.
Yeah. So Kevin had the option on end step there to try to terminate one of these creatures.
Yeah, so he was waiting. He found a land here, so he's able to cast Terminate and leave up Mana Leak.
That's good. He'll play a 4th land and pass. We go back to Jessup. Imagine poor Jet, though. Like I said, Jessup could just swing with 5/1/1s.
Jessup may have drawn too many Infectors and not enough pump spells, as now his attacks are okay.
Well, is that swing with 5 creatures? How bad is that? I mean, some poison has got to land on Kevin. There's no way he's taking care of all 5.
Well, the fact, if you attack with all 5, you're not leaving up any mana. I like attacking 1 because then you can trade with the flipped Insectile Aberration, and then suddenly your Inkmoth Nexus are unblockable until the other Delver flips.
It's interesting. There's 2 ways to play this. There's what you mentioned. There's the slow way to play it, where you just swing 1 Glistener Elf. And then there's kind of the very aggressive way where you swing the whole team. And it looks like Andrew has opted for aggression. Activates both Inkmoth Nexuses, swings 5/1/1s.
Yeah, with Kevin on 6 poison.
Yeah, let's get some carnage in there. So it'll be a block on each. Kevin some kill spell, but Andrew played Verdant Catacombs, 1 card in hand, and Kevin's just hope there's no way this is Vines of Astwood. Hoping it's not Vines.
Yeah, well, he has Mana Leak if it is Vines.
Terminate on an Inkmoth.
Neo for Terminate on the Inkmoth. It does take a mana to activate to attack, but if Kevin top decks, say, a Tassicker, it can block the Glistener Elves.
Okay. So Terminate takes care of Inkmoth. Does damage go in? Sure does. Kevin now at 8 poison. The Delver of Secrets trades with the Glistener Elf. The Insectile Aberration eats the Nexus and gets a -1/-1 counter.
Yeah, and now it can still trade even with an Exalted Glistener Elf.
So that much is good. But now both these Glistener Elves are lethal attackers. Kevin's at 8 poison.
Yes, with an Exalted trigger they are.
Right. Anders fetches. Is it the last Glistener Elf? Yeah. Glistener Elf number 4. All right. Kevin will Mana Leak. I don't suppose we were ever getting to a point where Andrew could play around Mana Leak. He did just lose all his lands on that attack.
Right. Yeah, now he has exactly 3 mana in play, so you can't cast any spells that cost mana and pay for Mana Leak.
So if you go with the conservative route, where Andrew just swings the 1 elf, then post-combat he gets to play another Glistener Elf and pay for Mana Leak?
Yeah, I think that was probably the better line, actually.
Well, with the cards that are in Kevin's hand, I do agree. Now, is he supposed to play around Kevin having all that? That part I'm not sure.
Well, so he already knew about Mana Leak, right? He's just playing around Kevin top decking another removal spell. Could have been Terminate, could have been Lightning Bolt. I mean, what if it was Kolagon's Command, you know?
Ugh.
He also has Electrolyze in his main deck.
Go back over to Kevin Jones. Draws a land for the turn. He will cast Serum Visions. Going to try to seal this one out. Draws, I believe, another land. Here's a Scry 2, though. What can he make of that? One of them's an island. Certainly not going to keep that, but the other one is a spell.
I believe it was a checklist card. Looks like a Delver.
Yeah, well, he's going to put both on the bottom. Delver, because of that Noble Hierarch, doesn't trade with the Glistener Elf.
Yep, would just be a chump blocker.
Kevin, land, go. Andrew, out of cards. Playing off the top of the deck, needs to get 2 more poison onto Kevin Jones. He'll draw. I guess swinging 2 elves is better than swinging 1 elf here.
Yeah, either way, you trade with the Delver.
All right, he'll swing them both. Delver trades with 1. Does the 9th poison go on to Kevin? It does. All right. Andrew passes. 1 Infector left.
Kevin needs something here. He just put some cards on the bottom, and now he's cracking this fetch land. I think you're supposed to just leave that one up.
I guess that would be true. It depends if there are outs that require the 5th land that he's hoping to hit here. Something that, you know, I don't
The only
think
thing
so.
that there is for that is Snapcaster 3-mana spell in graveyard, and there's no 3-mana spells in graveyard.
Snapcaster's good enough without...
Yeah.
Yeah, Snapcaster already wins. I don't think we need to make it win more. Snapcaster Terminate Go seems great. Kevin will draw 9 poison for the Grixis Delver
Looks like
player.
a Tassiger.
All right. Plays a Swamp. It is Tassiger, the Golden Fang.
That's a great draw.
All right, he has the blocker at 9 poison. And he has 4 mana up. He can start activating the Tassiger.
And Jessup's already cast Distortion Strike, so he has to do this combat the honest way.
That was a one of. He has 2 copies of Apostle's Blessing, 1 copy of Dismember. Those would all win the game here.
Kevin does have Spell Snare still, so Apostle's Blessing is not on.
Okay, so 1 Dismember. Well, that's not too much.
Right.
Something like Become Immense or a Pump Spell would kill the Tasigur, but that doesn't. Then Kevin gets another chance to draw. So a card drawn here from Jessup.
I believe it's a Gataxian Probe.
Not shabby. We'll get a redraw at the very least. Here is the probe. What does he have to play around from Kevin's side? Looks at it, draws a card, draws Viridian Corruptor. Well, he can just cast it. There are 9 poison on Kevin.
Yeah.
Has to fetch down to 13 and shuffle. If he gets 1 more hit in, it's lethal.
Yep. Any amount of Invac damage does it.
A 3-drop creature, that cannot be spell snared by Kevin's last card, so he'll have to go to work. Here's the Tasigur. Mana Leak was left in his graveyard, so he'll mill 2. We have Kolaghan's Command, Snapcaster Mage, Terminate. Yeah, we'll just give him the Mana Leak.
Yep, if anything is cast for 1 mana, Jessup can pay for that in this board.
But the danger here is if Kevin activates the Tasigur again, there's not another blank that Jessup can give him.
Well, it doesn't really have a bunch of mana to be activating Tasigur and casting spells.
Well, hold on. Serum Visions from Kevin. Bear with me for a second here. If he just activates Tasigur.
Well, what if he flips over a blank?
He could, I know.
It's 2 cards to find a blank versus the draw off Serum Visions being bad.
Right. I think I'd rather activate, but maybe it doesn't matter. It looks like he drew Terminate, and that's huge. Scryed cards to the top as well. So now Jessup is really just trying to find that Dismember. If we wait another turn, Kevin's next 2 draws where we're top off the scry. And he draws it. He draws the 1 of Dismember.
Oh, wow.
Kevin has Mana Leak, but there's 3 mana up for Jessup. 1 outs him here. Mana Leak, Jessup pays. Tasigur down, and game 1 goes to Andrew Jessup.
Brutal. Had to be Dismember on that turn.
You see it on his face, too. That was some thievery from Andrew Jessup.
Yeah, I'll say. Wow.
So 1-0. Jessup takes the first game, and we are on to some sideboards.
You know, I like him on the play, but, man, not like that.
All right, let's start with the Grixis side. Kevin Jones down a game, sideboard. 4 Ancestral Visions, 2 Counter Squall, 2 Magma Spray, 2 Crumble to Dust, Vampiric Link, Kolaghan's Command, Dispel, Vandal Blast, and Engineered Explosives.
The big hits are Magma Spray, another 1-mana removal spell. As we noticed from that hand there, the big thing missing was Lightning Bolt. Magma Spray in most situations is pretty much the same. Dispel is also good just to bring the mana curve down. Kolaghan's Command is kind of a play-draw thing. I kind of like having 1 copy in the deck on the play. It's kind of just too inefficient in a lot of games on the draw.
Yeah, so we did see a board state there. If Kevin had a Kolaghan's Command with those Inkmoth Nexus and those Glistener Elves, it's a great card. But not every game actually shapes up that way.
Yeah, usually the Infect deck isn't casting 5 Infect threats.
they're not swarming.
They're just like, what, 13 in the deck because of the Corruptor? Yeah.
All right, on Andrew Jessup's side, 3 Nature's Claims, 3 Kitchen Finks, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Dismember, a Dispel, a Twisted Image, a Grafdigger's Cage, a Spellskite, and then 1 of Dryad Arbor.
Spellskite's good. It blocks a lot of the red removal spells. I like that one a good amount. Dispel, fight over basically all of the interaction. I don't like Dismember. I don't think that's a fight you're trying to battle here. Even though it was great, even though it won in the game, again, you don't always have games shake up exactly that. That was a very unique game.
You put the 1 in so that you draw it when you need it.
Yeah. Spell Pierce would have got Kevin at most of the stages in that game, and in most of the stages of most games. I like Spell Pierce. The deck is very removal heavy. There's some argument for Kitchen Finks. I don't think that's the plan you want to be on, though.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll kill him with that regular sort of damage. If we get to the point where Kevin is ahead, I don't know if having a couple persist creatures will save it for Jessup.
Yeah, especially with some Tasigurs and whatever, just to beat up Kitchen Finks in combat.
All right, so Andrew Jessup now 1 game away from that trophy. We'll see if he can take it out in game 2. Now, one thing we have coming up at the beginning of August, I want to take a second to tell you about SCG Regionals. That is Regionals Weekend. It is happening at the beginning of August. This is our Season 2 Summer Regionals. We have regionals twice a year, the first one taking place in February. Now, this one, the Regional Championships, You get an exclusive playmat and token for the first 200 players to register at each location. So you saw that Hot Pursuit playmat. That's the one with the dragon on it. He is in Hot Pursuit of the Goblin token. Ugh, not again, the 1/1. These will be given away to the first 200 players to register at each location. So you're going to want to sign up for that soon. It is on August 1st, so little over a month from now. It's going to be standard, so you're going to want to bring your standard decks for that. And remember, this is actually part of the SCG Tour. So what that means is there are cash prizes all the way through the top 32. There are SCG points for the Season 2 player race on that, and for the 2016 Player of the Year race. Those are all given out. And as you would expect at a premier event on the tour, qualifications for the Invitational given to anyone finishing in the top 8. So if you're looking for maybe an invite to the Season 2 Invitational happening 2 weeks after regionals on August 19th through 21st, this is one way to get there. So you can find out where your locations are. We have a map here of them, so they're all around the United States and in Canada. You can find the one closest to you. To find out more, including where in your state it will be held and how to register, go to starcitygames.com/regionals for all your information.
Yeah, regionals, always a great tournament. Love making out to those. Pretty high attendance for the last regionals.
Yeah, I know at least the one in the Twin Cities, 368 players showing up for that one. Was a huge battle.
Yeah, we had some situations where some of the Minnesota players, they would call to see.
Making sure they could get their spot for it. Yeah, it was great. So Andrew Jessup still searching for that first win, the 20-year-old from Ronkonkoma, New York. He has 4 Open Series top 8s with the one today. Like I said, still wanting that win. Now, one of the things I like about Andrew Jessup, he's got some attitude here. So, for example, you can follow him on Twitter at @TheBetterJessup, for example, is his Twitter handle. Yeah, self-proclaimed best player in the house, though that one is in dispute.
And some of that shines through when you see him playing. I really enjoy watching Andrew. When we have him on camera, sometimes you pan over to his face, and he just doesn't look like he cares at all about what his opponent's doing. He draws his card, and he is in his own space. Yeah, you do whatever you do. I'm going to let you know if you're dead.
Has a very good face, especially for playing Infect, that I don't care, none of this is, I noticed that with some of the best Infect players. You think about, Andrew Jessup, Tom Rossi's players, they're just stoic, Yeah, I don't care what you're doing. I'm gonna poison you.
Yeah. You don't tell me if I win. I tell you if you lose.
My heart is on my sleeve, and I play way too much for me to play Infect. You'd know it was in my hand, and then I'd lose.
So that's not my problem. My problem, I don't have the courage to make bluff attacks. It's like, oh, they're just gonna block. Everyone's so smart. Everyone's just gonna block every time I try to make a bad attack. And
yeah, it's like people would tell you when I try to bluff in those situations. You can tell I'm like asking you, like, please fall for this, please do it, and then they're like, no, and then they kind of like, ah. With Andrew, you just don't know. I mean, he looks the same if he's bluffing or not. It's
I
great.
like how your argument is that you wear your heart on your sleeve, and then something bad happens, and you're just like, oh.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just you're like, please take this damage. I would be happy if you fell for this.
Will you take this damage?
Yeah.
Please take this damage.
Kevin Jones now on the play with Grixis Delver. Turn 1 will be a shock fetch for Steam Vents and Serum Visions. Last game with Kevin's draw, the die roll. Well, okay, I was going to say the die roll won Andrew the game. Okay, the Dismember probably won Andrew the game. But the die roll was huge. Kevin's hand unstoppable on the play. He draws here off Serum Visions. Now, last round, we saw Kevin board out Delver of Secrets in this control mirror. I would assume they're still in this matchup.
Oh, yeah. This is definitely a Delver matchup. And it's not always just for attacking. It does block Inkmoth Nexus.
Well, it's one of those rules, you almost keep any card that costs 1 mana as long as it's reasonable.
Yeah, efficiency is just everything against Infect.
So Andrew will fetch for a forest of his own, play Noble Hierarch, and pass back to Kevin. Now, this game, Kevin has access to cards like Lightning Bolt. Could definitely change how it plays out. His hand was nearly perfect last game, except for the fact that there were no Lightning Bolts.
It would have been perfect had it not been slightly off. Lightning Bolt was the big thing missing.
I mean, I'll take Delvers into Mana Leaks and Spell Snares all day, but sometimes,
Some of us are more particular about what we like.
Yeah. I had turn 1 3/2s, and then I counter all your spells. Yeah, that's horrible. Watery Grave from Kevin, and the Lightning Bolt. He'll go down to 14 as a second fetch for a shock and Serum Visions again.
One thing I love about playing against Infect is you just fetch, shock every time you have a land.
Just don't even worry about it.
Sometimes you can die to Noble Hierarch.
Sometimes they become if you do it too much, they start commencing their Noble Hierarch, and then you feel bad about it.
Yeah, there is an upper limit. You don't do it for no reason. On turn 1 and 2, it's fine. You can take 6. 6 is fine. Don't take 15.
Once you get to single digits, it's a problem. So Andrew will lead off here with a Gitaxian Probe on his second turn, and now he knows what he's playing around. We have a Terminate, a Mana Leak, a Mountain, a Tasigur, and a Snapcaster Mage. A little bit of everything here.
Yeah, Kevin is not yet able to cast Tasigur and Terminate on the same turn, but everything else about this hand is excellent.
Yeah, I guess the mana costs are still chunky in this hand. Outside of the Mana Leak, he can cast Mana Leak and Tasigur on the same turn, but otherwise he's stuck in one spell territory.
So basic Mountain is among the worst lands in Modern. It's just
there are some casters here who would take issue with that statement.
Yeah, because your Twitter handle is Basic Mountain.
I would think so.
You think that Patrick Sullivan doesn't understand what Blood Moon, the effect that card has on Modern?
I mean, I end up playing Basic Mountains even when I don't register them. It's the worst.
The reason that you play Basic Mountain in Delver is because sometimes you have to fetch a red source untapped against burn, and taking 3 damage is unacceptable. When you just draw it naturally, it feels bad almost every time.
So after the Gitaxian Probe, Andrew uses his second turn to play a pair of Noble Hierarchs, replacing the first one that was bolted by Kevin. These are numbers 2 and 3. We go back to Kevin's third turn, and he's going to double spell on the double spell here. He'll play Tasigur, delving his whole graveyard, leaving up 2 mana and a known Mana Leak.
Mm-hmm.
That said, though, Andrew does have up to 5 mana sources here. The Mana Leak is, maybe not good.
Yeah, what's Andrew gets up to 5 mana. The only threat that can be Mana Leaked is Viridian Corruptor.
Which, if you've watched anything this weekend, is just a 2/2. I'm not really sure why we play cards like that.
Well, if you've been watching this weekend, you also know that Andrew always has it.
Yeah, every game he has the 1-up Corruptor, and it never kills an artifact. But thanks to that double Noble Hierarch turn, Andrew will play a turn 3 Blighted Agent here and actually have 3 mana available if Kevin decides where to try to go for Mana Leak.
And without a land off the top, Kevin is not yet in Terminate Mana Leak territory.
Right, he'll need a land off the top. He also is still stuck, as you mentioned, on that 1 black mana.
Mm-hmm.
He did draw a Lightning Bolt. He can do that. Okay, he actually is going to Mana Leak the Blighted Agent. So that'll tap Andrew out, but it'll be -1 card.
Yeah, so this will force Andrew to tap out and guarantee that the Terminate or maybe a Lightning Bolt could resolve on the Blighted Agent on the following turn. Make sure that there's no Infect threat in play when Jessup untaps.
So the thought here is that Mana Leak's not getting any better. He may as well cash it.
Well, once the Blighted Agent is in play, the Mana Leak's whatever. It's already attacking for 3 just with Noble Hierarchs.
Just the concern, though, if the Mana Leak's in the graveyard, then if down the road Kevin tries to activate Tasigur, he's probably going to get himself another Mana Leak.
Well, he doesn't have 4 lands anyway, and that's kind of what's forcing the issue. So I like the play.
I guess in this matchup, 4 mana activating Tasigur, that's a pretty big wish.
Yeah, and look at Jessup's life total.
Yeah, so what happened there is he bolted away the Blighted Agent and attacked with Tasigur. Andrew's actually down to 9, and there are 0 poison on Kevin Jones. He may just be in for a old-fashioned damage race and could win it. There's no Infectors in play.
Yeah. For 14, though, Noble Hierarch attacks for 2.
Yeah. You look at the ways that Andrew can answer Tasigur, and, it's Dismember. Okay, now we're down to 5. Just, ugh.
Well, no, the attacks with Noble Hierarch are actually significant.
Okay, Kevin goes to 12.
This is a regular damage race.
Yeah, so we're looking for a damage kill from the Infect player here. 12 and 9 are life totals. 4th land drawn from Kevin. He will attack again with Tasigur. Andrew down to 5. And a pass from Kevin Jones. He has the Terminate up.
I believe a Snapcaster Mage as well.
Okay. A draw from Jessup. So he's got to watch out. And Andrew knows if he goes to 1, very good chance he's going to 0.
Yes.
Whether it's a Bolt in Kevin's hand, a Kolagon's Command, a Snapcaster Mage. Something would go wrong. Noble Hierarch will attack. It exalts to a 2/3. Will Kevin respond?
This is a tough spot. Andrew has a lot of cards in hand and 5 mana available. I kind of like casting Snapcaster Mage targeting Lightning Bolt and just,
then just blocking?
Maybe cast the Bolt before damage, maybe not.
If you are just relying on that Terminate to save you, it's possible that Kevin gets killed here. A Vines, a Become Immense, that's not out of the question.
So I think the line I would be on, cast Snapcaster Mage, target Lightning Bolt, commit to chump blocking.
Okay, yeah.
Spell Snare, if Jessup has a Blighted Agent. Bolt upstairs end step, use Terminate on the other Noble Hierarch, and try to win the game that way.
All right, so Kevin's on this. Before, he's going to play Snapcaster Mage. I assume he's targeting Lightning Bolt.
The other alternative that I'm okay with is blocking, declaring a block, and then targeting the blocking, the hierarch that you're blocking with the Lightning Bolt. That's also acceptable.
Snapcaster goes in front of Noble Hierarch. Both players pass priority. The 2/3 takes down the 2/1.
Good old shrug.
Remember that Lightning Bolt still has flashback at the moment.
Yep.
There is at least one Windswept Heath and one Become Immense in Jessup's hand. Kevin went to 11 on that fetch and passes the turn. So Kevin will use the Lightning Bolt. Is it at the Hierarch? Is it upstairs? Looks like that is pointed at the untapped Noble Hierarch. Correction, that's pointed at Andrew. He'll go to 2.
And now the Terminate on the untapped Hierarch will serve as a Vines of the Vastwood check. If it's there, you just, don't attack.
Kevin's hand, Spell Snare, Terminate, and Bloodstained Mire. Here's a swing with Tasigur.
Okay, decides that he can save the Terminate for a window where Jessup's not just chump blocking.
I mean, Jessup's going to have to chump block. There's not much in his deck that would do otherwise.
Yeah, so the question is if Jessup's going to chump block or block and cast a pump spell.
Yeah, he could block and Become Immense. So he'll block. Try to kill the Tasigur here at the Become Immense. The Become Immense is is one of his biggest commodities right now. So Noble Hierarch will block before damage. It will make mana. Yeah, here is Become Immense. We'll see how much Andrew delves. 5. Okay.
I would assume that there's not a second Become Immense in Andrew's hand.
I mean, that's scary from Kevin's side that Andrew went for such a large delve. Implying that maybe he has 4 mana worth of things in his hand.
Yeah. I mean, you can go for the Terminate, or you can be way behind.
Yeah, you have to. He's going to go for the Terminate. Andrew's not going to have any of that. That's going to be Vines of Vastwood. Okay. Noble Hierarch's a 6/7. It's going to take down the Tasigur.
We're in trouble now.
Land from Kevin. Question mark.
Just Spell Snare in hand.
Okay, back over to Jessup. He's at 2. I mean, all it ever takes is a Lightning Bolt from Kevin, and we're on to game 3.
Yeah.
He used his biggest pump spell to kill Tasigur. We're not sure how much is left in the tank for Jessup.
Right, there's a land in hand for Jessup.
A Mutagenic Growth, a land, and then one more that we don't know yet. Noble Hierarch will attack for 2. Kevin goes to 9 and gets another turn. Okay.
Lightning Bolt? Didn't look like a Lightning Bolt.
Tasigur. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Here is Tasigur. Tapping 2, delving 4. So he leaves up enough mana to play. That one's interesting. And he's deciding on how he wants to cast. Now he decides he wants to delve all 5, maybe leave up a Tasigur activation.
Yeah.
I like that more. Andrew untaps. Still on the regular damage plan. He was hoping to draw another pump spell before Kevin hit a Lightning Bolt or a blocker. And that didn't work, so it's back to the drawing board for Jessup. He can attack through Tasigur with with one of his +4 pump spells.
I like that better than trying that when you're blocking.
If he has one. The question is how much respect Kevin gives him. If Andrew attacks here, it's likely that Kevin just has to block the first time. but maybe he doesn't. We'll see. This Noble-Hierarch's going to exalt to a 2-3, and yeah, Kevin will take the block. Doesn't want to go any lower than 9 off these free attacks.
Yeah, with 3 cards in hand, this is a very dangerous attack.
We know there's a mutagenic growth in Jessup's hand. He has 2 other cards. It would take more than the mutagenic growth, though, to kill Tasker. He needs to add at least 3 power.
Yeah, all that would do is cause the creatures to bounce off each other.
Fetches down to 1, and it is become immense again on Noble Hierarch. Kevin will respond with cracking his Bloodstained Mire. He goes to 8. He'll get a Tassiger activation. The last card in Kevin's hand is a Spell Snare. Andrew has not played along, has only played spells that cost, well, 6 or 1.
In Kevin's 75, best possible to flip over here is Land Electrolyze.
Land any burn spell should win.
Oh, right, yeah, Jessup's at 1.
Let's see. Island, Serum Visions. All right, that'll play.
That's okay.
Loses the Tassiger. And when you saw the first island, there's one of those things where Kevin hopes, please don't have it be another land.
Yeah. No more bricks.
So we're back to Kevin. He'll get a draw for the turn, and he'll get a Serum Visions. Can he end it?
Didn't look like a red card.
Didn't see a red card there. Here's the Serum Visions. He still has that Spell Snare. Draws another Tassiger. Is that the final one?
He's
I think
real
so.
good at blocking with Tassiger.
And the scary part, if you're an Andrew Jessup fan, Kevin has scryed one of his 2 cards to the top. There are a lot of cards in his deck that just immediately win.
Yes.
I am concerned if my opponent's topping anything.
Yeah.
So Kevin once again will play Tassiger, delving away the whole graveyard. This is the 3rd time he's done it, and he passes.
You might top deck a Serum Visions in this kind of situation, but it's very likely to be a red card.
Draw here from Jessup. Has at least 1 fetch land in hand. That one is no longer a card. He just has to pass.
Ooh, and no attacks this turn. The sign of weakness.
Yeah, Kolagon's Command the draw from Kevin. That's a lethal burn spell. And wastes no time. Go for the win. And we are on to game 3. Kevin Jones evens it up 1 game apiece.
Yeah, that was dicey for a while. Kevin really needed some help from the top of his deck, and it delivered. Tassiger, Serum Visions, and Kolagon's Command.
Such an interesting dynamic here between the 2. That game, you know, Jessup only ever had 1 Infector, and Kevin removed it right away. So it became this race between regular damage from Noble Hierarchs and Kevin shocking for lands.
Yeah.
Really interesting one.
And you know, I bet Andrew was kind of wishing he could split up the Infectors he drew in Game 1 versus Game 2.
So players are going to shuffle up for Game 3. That one will decide all of it. Who will be the Dallas Open champion? We're going to take a second, though. In 2 weeks, we'll be heading for our Legacy Open of the season. I know a lot of people look forward to that one. If you haven't heard about it yet, you're going to want to join us over in Worcester, Massachusetts in a couple of weeks.
Join us on the SCG Tour July 9th through the 10th for the Worcester Open weekend. On Saturday, play in the Legacy Open main event. Every competitor gets a playmat featuring Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, plus our latest Invitational Winners token just for playing. The top 8 finishers earn a spot in an upcoming Invitational and get 1 step closer to the Players' Championship. On Sunday, it's your format, your tournament, as you choose between Modern and Standard Classics. All participants get an Invitational Winners token, Modern players receive a Ghost Quarter playmat, Standard players receive a Sigarda Herod's Grace playmat, and the top 4 competitors in each classic qualify for an Invitational. There's plenty more to do in Worcester. All weekend, play in side events and earn tickets to spend at the SCG Prize Wall. Between rounds, meet the weekend special guests, Magic artists Brian Wackwitz, Jesper Meerforce, Pat Morrissey-Lewis, and RK Post. And don't forget to tune into SCG Live as Chris Van Meter, Andrew Boswell, and Nick Miller bring you coverage all weekend long. The Worcester Open Weekend is July 9th through the 10th. Step into the spotlight.
So the Worcester Open, that's going to be happening in 2 weeks over in the Massachusetts area. But one more game decides between Andrew Jessup and Kevin Jones. We talked about Andrew Jessup, his search for his first Open win. For Kevin Jones, he has 2 wins to his name, but hasn't had one for quite a while. The 28-year-old from Kingston, New York, 8 Open top 8s. He has his 1 win. That was over in 2014. It was with Jeskai. He was the first guy to come together with some Mantis Riders right when Khans of Tarkir came out and swept through the field over in New Jersey. Since then, a lot of Open Series top 8s, 2 visits to the Players' Championship, but has no trophies in that time period.
Yeah, a second trophy would be excellent. For anybody who has 0 trophies, 1 trophy is what you really want. And if you have 1 trophy, what you really want is a second trophy. I assume if you have 2, a third is the goal.
It's one of those progressions.
What I'm getting at is that trophies are great.
Yeah, he did win the Eternal Weekend Legacy Championship with Blue Red Delver. Really, at heart, a player for these aggressive blue strategies. Jeskai has frequently been his modern stable. Played basically Mantis Rider for its entire legality.
Now he's coming over to the dark side. Little Grixis.
Has played Delver in Legacy as well.
Yep.
In each of these styles, he tends to favor a more aggressive approach. I think this is one of the more actual controlling versions of Delver that I've seen Kevin play.
Yeah, and the aggressive versions of Delver, they really just are kind of not viable in Modern right now. You can play them, they're okay, but there's just a lot of decks that you'll feel pretty outgunned in.
So Game 1 went over to Andrew Jessup, 9th in our Player of the Year race. Game 2 went to Kevin Jones. Andrew, as being the 1 seed, gets to be on the play for the deciding game. And we really have seen that matter each time.
Uh-oh.
Well, Andrew will be down to 6, Kevin on 7. That sort of thing can be overcome here.
Yeah. You can kill your opponent with 3 or 4 cards. I mean, you need some lands to cast them, but 3 or 4 spells, depending on what Kevin has. I assume if he's keeping 7, he has at least one mana interactive spell. Presumably a Lightning Bolt or a Magma's Praise in the hand.
Yeah, one of the things that Andrew can capitalize on is if Kevin has kept a hand with not many 1 mana spells, but a lot of 2s, he can sneak under that. And that's more or less what we saw in Game 1.
And the 2 heavy hands on the draw are going to be traps for the Grixis deck.
Right, you see all these Terminates and Snapcasters, and they look good, but they clunk out.
Yep.
The deck's ability, Grixis Delver I would think wants to get to the point where it's playing 2 spells a turn very quickly.
Exactly.
Andrew contemplating a 6. It's a borderline one, but at 5, it's very hard for him to win games. So now he has to decide, does he want to keep a 6 and get lucky or go to 5?
And get lucky.
Scry's 1 on the top, and we're underway. This is the deciding game between the 2. Misty Rainforest, go. No 1-drop, and that's one of the things when you have the Paris or the Vancouver mulligan. So if he likes that card on top, and then your first land is a fetch land, you have a big decision already.
Yeah. And no Noble Hierarch or Glistener Elf, sigh of relief on Kevin's side. He has some Delvers in his hand, and he can start with the aggression on his side.
So it will be Kevin Jones committing to the board first, though he's on the draw. Turn 1, Polluted Delta, getting Steam Vents, casting Delver of Secrets. The 1/1 is in play. To go back to Andrew's side. Now on turn 2, he draws and cracks Misty Rainforest. That one will find Forest. Andrew hoping to sneak under the Delver deck, though right now not doing that.
Yeah, Kevin has a very aggressive hand. The only way that Andrew can really compete is to pick it up and have a lot of aggression himself.
He'll play Glistener Elf, Pendelhaven, and pass. Well, the difference is that Andrew needs to stay close to even on the board because he doesn't have removal spells. So if he gets behind the board, he doesn't have a way to catch up.
Right. If he ever finds himself with no creatures on the table and Kevin has some, Kevin is just very far ahead.
So the Delver flips on the very next turn. It's a copy of Spell Snare that goes into Jones's hand.
So Spell Snare does lose a lot of value in this matchup once there's already an Infector on the table. The prime target is mostly going to be Blighted Agent, though it can catch Apostle's Blessing.
Kevin plays a Scalding Tarn. Thinking about playing another Delver, he will. Maybe he'll just get aggressive here. See if he attacks. Yeah, plays a second Delver, but it looks like he just passes. So the defensive turn 1 flipped Delver from Kevin Jones.
Yeah, well, now that there's a Glistener Elf on the table and a Pendelhaven, he's already just trading with that block. And if Jessup gets aggressive here and has some pump spells, he could already be dead. He has to be able to block, and just chumping with the 1/1 isn't going to do it.
It was right on cue for Andrew, but not the kind of cue he wants. Drew a copy of Apostle's Blessing right after he saw Kevin flip off a Spell Snare. So he will dismember, paying 4 life to take care of the 3/2 Insectile Aberration, and now attack with Glistener Elf. No blocks from Kevin, and Andrew will Pendelhaven it up to a 2-3. So 2 poison onto Kevin.
Could have gone a lot worse.
At that pace, it'll be 5 turns. We go back over to Kevin Jones.
I believe that Kevin both has a Thought Scour to cast here and a Tassiger for his next turn.
A great set of plays. Tassiger's so good here. We saw that in game 2 where Kevin had 3 Tassigers to win it.
Yeah.
The ability, the 4/5 blocker was excellent.
Against Glistener Elf and Noble Hierarch, Tassiger is excellent. Less good against Blighted Agent and Inkmoth Nexus, but
Sure.
against this kind of draw, Tassiger is very good.
So end step, Kevin will fetch down to 14 life, cast Thought Scour targeting himself. We'll fill up the graveyard for that Tassiger. Engineered Explosives and Snapcaster Mage in the graveyard. He draws its Kolagon's Command. Expensive one there, but one that he'll eventually use. And this is just even stronger. This Delver flips as well right away, but more importantly, it flips off the card Lightning Bolt.
Well, if Kevin has a 3rd land here, he can cast Tassiger, cast Lightning Bolt, leave up Spell Snare, and there is at least a Watery Grave in hand. This is a huge turn for Jones.
Maybe get around to attacking at that point. Plays Watery Grave, goes down to 12. He'll start with Tassiger, delves away everything but the Snapcaster Mage. He has Kolagon's Command in hand. He wants to leave that 2-1 there. We'll see if there's the main phase Lightning Bolt. If he goes for it, there's not much. I guess Andrew could have a Vines.
Yeah, you know, because Andrew has a tapped Pendelhaven, I like going for the Lightning Bolt here because a lot more stuff can combine once that untaps to save the Glistener Elf. You could just have a simple Mutagenic Growth and fight that battle.
Yeah. He'll just pass. Play it even more conservatively. He could have gotten away with the Lightning Bolt, but this line might be safer. Kevin's hand is so great here.
I would have liked the attack there. He's kind of playing around Andrew having another Dismember for the Tassiger.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's safe. You're not wrong that this would work, but you know, being as conservative when your hand is so good, being conservative here isn't horrible.
Infect is a deck that can turn things around in very
Yeah.
short order, though. I like getting them dead.
Yeah, you can't wait forever. Their spells are too cheap that if you get in this prolonged counter war, they win.
Yes. And if Jessup can start producing some Inkmoth Nexi, you know, that would be a huge top deck in swinging this kind of match around.
He doesn't have the right tools just yet. And the thing is, Jessup, is he knows Kevin's holdings. He knows Kevin has a Spell Snare and a Lightning Bolt. He saw both of them off Delver of Secrets. So he'll play a second Glistener Elf, leave up that Pendelhaven, and just pass the turn. Kevin will Thought Scour himself on end step. Lightning Bolt, Island into the graveyard, draws Mana Leak. And now he'll just untap, not use that Lightning Bolt just yet. Draws another Spell Snare.
Probably would have preferred to draw that island here, actually.
Yeah, he doesn't have the 4th land just yet. Still can double spell, I guess even triple spell, both snares and Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, unlikely he'll ever need 2 snares in a turn. Still not attacking.
No, he's going to go for the long game against Infect. Now, Jessup did miss a land drop last turn, so it's not... He's not falling too far behind, but... And here's one of the things he has to watch out for. Andrew drew for the turn, and it was a copy of Inkmoth Nexus.
Right. That's one of the worst-case scenarios for Kevin, especially playing the way that he is. You know, Jessup could be at 9 with 2 attacks from the Delver. As things stand, you know, that Inkmoth Nexus is a very good draw for Jessup.
Kolagon's Command is in Kevin's hand, and we'll see what he does on end step. Jessup plays Inkmoth and passes. Looks like Kevin will go for the command. If he tries to do it on any of these elves, then Andrew gets to use the Apostle's Blessing.
I imagine the modes that I would go for here are Jessup discards a card, I return Snapcaster Mage to my hand.
And those are exactly the modes Kevin picked. He's just playing the value plan. So he gets back Snapcaster Mage and Jessup discards.
Yeah, well, the Shock isn't going to do anything. Jessup only has 3 cards in hand. So the discard is actually very significant.
He has him discard the Apostle's Blessing. I think in Andrew's situation, he's thinking with at least one Spell Snare, this is never working anyway.
Yep.
And Kevin draws. Finds a land, it's Scalding Tarn. We'll see just when Kevin wants to flip the switch and start attacking. We're getting there.
Yeah, With that Inkmoth Nexus hanging out, though, I think you're committed to blocking with the Delver at this point. Maybe the Tassiger can attack.
Well, Kevin has a 5-card hand to Andrew's 2 cards. And he has ways, whether it's Tassiger activations, Snapcaster Mage, he can keep compounding that advantage, at least for the time being.
Yeah, he does have access to Bolt, Snapcaster, Bolt now. Bolt, Mana Leak, Spell Snare.
Right, yeah, 2 or 3 things in a turn. You see he's thinking about attacking, but then goes back, nope, he's going to settle on in. Andrew's going to go ahead and get a land out of his deck with that Verdant Catacombs, finds a copy of Breeding Pool.
Yeah, and so with this line, Kevin can plan what he wants to do with the Snapcaster Mage and the Lightning Bolt based around what Jessup does. It's kind of inviting to just go Bolt, Snapcaster Bolt, and Bolts the Glistener Elves. Then he can for sure start attacking with this Tassiger.
Yeah, so he wants to get enough card advantage here so that until really it becomes trivial.
Yes. The earlier attacks, non-attacks with Delver, I didn't really like. I like passing on that turn, though.
Yeah. Go to Jessup. Draws a card. He's now up to 3 cards in hand. He has 3 Infectors. The 2 Glistener Elves at the table. The 1 Inkmoth Nexus. He has a Pendlehaven to pump either of them. But he's only managed to stick 2 poison onto Kevin, so he has a lot of work left to be done. He's going to play Blighted Agent. Now, he knows about the Spell Snare.
Though he only knows about the 1 Spell Snare.
Right.
Now there's some danger if Jessup draws like the other Apostle's Blessing, or he could play into that with maybe topic another Blighted Agent, thinking that's safe.
We'll see if Kevin wants to go for a Snapcaster play on end step here. You see he will fetch down to 11 life with that Scalding Tarn. Maybe a Snap plus Bolt. It's not too, doesn't want to commit too much, but just enough to trade some cards from their hands.
Yeah, and with Snap Bolt, you can definitely start attacking with the Tassiger.
I like it here. So yeah, you end turn Snapcaster Mage, giving Lightning Bolt flashback. Just chip away. 1 Glistener Elf down. I think if it dies, Kevin's happy with it. If Andrew saves it, and he's happy with it too.
Yeah, any outcome is fine here.
He'll get a card either way. And it turns out the Glistener Elf just hits the graveyard. So now I go back to Kevin Jones's turn. He draws another Mana Leak. So now 2 copies of that in his hand. And Tassiger will start the attacks.
Things are looking really good for Jones now.
2 Mana Leaks. Spell Snare, Lightning Bolt is his hand. 4 lands in play, and he will just pass. If Andrew does nothing, Kevin can just activate that Tassiger.
Do you remember earlier in the broadcast when I was telling you how unbeatable Grixis is?
Sure is looking it right now.
This is an extremely good spot for Jones.
Last time these two played, Andrew Jessup 2-0 took the match. It is not looking that way this time. Andrew will tap. Float a green, play his 2nd copy of Pendlehaven. Now activates Inkmoth Nexus. Forced into some plays here. He's going to attack with Inkmoth. Kevin has the flying blocker at the ready.
Yeah, not going to pass on that block.
He's going to make the block. Andrew will pump his Inkmoth up to a 2-3.
This is a trade that Kevin is fine with. He also knows, since that Pendlehaven was the land drop, there won't be a 2nd Nexus coming down in this turn.
Andrew will attempt to pump spell. Here's Mutagenic Growth. Kevin has far too many Mana Leaks to let this work.
Yep, and he also still has Lightning Bolt.
So Mana Leak on the Mutagenic Growth. Kevin's just happy letting things trade.
Yep.
He has more cards.
Really far ahead on board. These Mana Leaks now. He can counter anything that Jessup casts.
I think Jessup's last card is another pump spell. So Mana Leak counters Mutagenic Growth. And you see Kevin just Mana Leak at the front of his hand. Jessup allows the trade. So the Insectile Aberration and the Inkmoth Nexus, both gone. Andrew passes. He's at 10 life. We're back to Kevin Jones. Draws for the turn.
Now, I like Kevin just going for the Lightning Bolt here with Mana Leak backup and attacking with both creatures.
That's exactly what he's going to do. Lightning Bolt takes down Glistener Elf. Andrew's out of creatures. Here's a swing for 6. Jessup's down to 4. 1 card in hand. And Kevin's got a Mana Leak. He's got this covered.
Yeah, there's nothing that Jessup can draw.
He'll play Gitaxian Probe. Kevin just is going to Mana Leak that even.
Do you even draw your card? I would extend my hand if I saw that.
Mana Leak Spell Snare. He'll play Glistener Elf. Kevin will Mana Leak that. That's countered. And Kevin Jones is your Dallas Open champion. Grixis Delver takes it down.
Daddy's home.